up in L.A. with the Rams here. Let's talk about
Ram Nation.
Yeah. This is my father's favorite team. I grew up watching these guys. Greatest show on turf. They had their down years, and they getting to the Super Bowl with Stafford was huge. And so let's talk about Stafford. This guy still got it. He's one of those quarterbacks that is like Aaron Rodgers, was like Tom Brady. These guys still can get it done physically as long as they stay healthy. I will say Rodgers and Stafford are not as healthy as Brady was at the end of his career. They still get injured because they take the hits. But Stafford finished with just a hair under 4,000 yards last year. He ended up with 24 total touchdowns and 11 interceptions. To me, the fact that he did that what he was doing in 15 games, he missed 2. He would have thrown for over 4,000 yards. He would have thrown for closer to 30 touchdowns with if he had Cooper Kupp all season and if he had PUKA the way he was going for a total of 17 games. I love Stafford as a late round pick. I love him as a backup too as well, but I'm okay taking him as a starter if I fade the quarterback position. He may be the last guy on that list, though.
I don't know.
He may be the last guy on this list.
I don't think I want to put myself in a position. I know a lot of people are just like fade quarterback because there's a ton of them. Like if I'm going to do that and Stafford is going to be my starter, I'd be okay with that. Is if I go back to back, quarterbacks and get Stafford and Rodgers.
Do you rank Stafford above Rodgers or Rodgers above Stafford?
I think Stafford and Rodgers are right there, neck and neck. I would want to get like both of them.
Yeah,
I'd have both of them above Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, I have Kirk behind those two guys. One because the injury,
but I find myself I'm going to go a later round quarterback is going to get like Jordan Love. I think he has a lot of upside. Going to get like Dak or Kyler Murray. Like,
but they're not
I don't
going
have to go
that late round. You're talking about 7th, 8th round.
Yeah, but I'm at that point I'd rather go and get a quarterback.
Tua's going after those guys in like the 8th, 9th round.
I think Tua is above all those guys. Mm-hmm. I would take Tua above Rodgers and Stafford. But Stafford is a guy I would agree with you. I wouldn't feel uncomfortable taking him as my starter. I would just want another quarterback after him. Do you value Goff over him? I think that's a really close debate right there.
It is because they're so similar as players. There's the similarities. You have the weapons at both sides of them. You have running backs on both sides of them. You have McVay running, McVay style offense in LA. I mean, I don't know. I think I'd probably take the youth in Goff, but it's a coin toss to me. I just love the fact that we can move on to the running backs after this comment here, but I love the weapons that Matt Stafford has. The fact that he's throwing to PUKA and Cooper Kupp, like he doesn't throw to anybody else at all, and he could still throw for almost 4,000 yards with those two guys. That's the wild part about it. But I think this offense is gonna look good again this year. But I probably would take Goff over him just because of the youth there, this team, the youth around him, and the team too as well. Like you got a receiver that's probably going to be 1,700 yards for Amon-Ra.
That's kind of like when I've done this, at least this year, I've taken like Goff as my starter, and then I've got like Stafford or Rodgers as my backup, and I really like that because you can play matchup based with both of them. They're both going to give you a nice floor.
Even Tua, Stafford, I would do that.
Yeah.
Love Stafford.
Yeah,
because you're drafting pocket passers. You're drafting guys that don't have the rushing upside that the top. Like after Kyler Murray, they don't have that rushing upside to do. So Kyren Williams, how do you feel about him this year?
So
does he scare you?
This
he scares me.
Super divisive. Like I've listened to a lot of people talk about Kyren. I know people that are completely off of him, and I know people are like he's gonna repeat. What scares me is Sean McVay more than anything else. Like,
that's what scares me.
I know, and
it wasn't too long ago we saw the Todd Gurley fall off.
I know.
Cam Akers.
They were older guys. Cam Akers. So the Cam Akers argument I don't get because week 1 last season, he was given the ball 20 times and got like 21 yards.
It was terrible.
He was awful. And then Kyren came in and showed he was effective and then never let go of the role because anytime he touched the ball, it was explosive. And he was used in both the games where he was inefficient running the ball, he was still involved in the passing game.
Mm-hmm.
And then he had games where he was so efficient as a runner.
Yeah,
and
so
he scored touchdowns.
He had 48 targets through the air. He had 228 carries for 1,144 yards. He had a 5-yard per carry average on the season. That's what I think is the scary part to me. Is he was so efficient. But you have another year where like they're going to have to key on Cooper Kupp and PUKA on the outside, who are incredible route runners. Absolutely.
And so like you can't afford to. It's not like these deep threats where they're just like, all right, we're going to prevent these guys and press cover them. Like good luck press covering either one of those guys.
Well, you can't press cover PUKA, and the route running specialist of Cooper Kupp is still there.
So I still think that there's a lot of upside. Like, I think I was talking about this yesterday, where Blake Corum is probably in the best scenario for a rookie running back.
Opportunity-wise? Yeah.
And that's the other running back here is Blake Corum. He's in a good position. I love him as a running back. I think he landed in just a terrible landing spot because if he went to another team that was running back needy, he would have been RB1.
Mm-hmm.
If he went to Dallas, would have been great fit for him, but he went behind Kyren, who, was RB3 last year?
Well, here's the thing about Kyren. He played 12 games last year. He was injury riddled. He was injured coming into the season, I'm pretty sure, too. And then he was injured throughout the season. That's what scares me a lot, which is the whole portion of the Corum thing. But the thing about Corum that I hesitate on is the fact that it is McVay. If you look at year after year, McVay doesn't split carries with backs.
No.
He gives them breathers, but he's a one-man show there. We saw it with Gurley, and when he's done with you, he's done with you. You're not sprinkled back in again. So, you look at the year before Kyren, it was Darrell Henderson the whole season.
Cam Akers, Darrell Henderson.
So I'm saying, last year, Royce Freeman had 77 carries. That was only because Royce Freeman was effective when Kyren was out.
Yeah.
And as soon as Kyren came back, gone.
Yeah.
Didn't matter. So that's the only thing that scares me about Corum, but I'm willing to invest in Corum because of 12 games played by Kyren Williams last year.
Yeah. Well, and I think Corum is great for Dynasty.
Huge Dynasty. Even best ball. If you have a season-ending injury to Kyren for any reason, you got a stud.
He's going to be a stud if he takes a bunch of carries. I just don't think he does. I think Kyren is still – he's one of those guys that's being drafted in the – late second, early third round, and that's great value for a guy that is gonna. He's the RB1 in that offense. We like that offense. It's a high-powered offense, and they score a lot of points.
Yeah,
there's a lot of things to like about Kyren.
I don't mind it. So is he worth your second-round pick? Because he's going right around Derrick Henry.
I know.
That's the hard part for me.
This is the tough part. I'd rather go a safer pick with Derrick Henry there.
Travis Etienne?
Rather go to Etienne.
See, I'd go with Kyren over Etienne.
I think I would go Etienne. It's a safer pick for me.
But it's not, to me, it's not that
there's no one there.
No, I get it. But again, it's McVay. There's nobody there in reality anyway.
But there's Blake Corum behind him.
But there's really nobody there because McVay's going to feed Kyren till he's injured, and then you go grab Corum later on to hinge your bet. That's the only thing. Is I'm hinging my bet with Blake Corum if I get Kyren. I'm not leaving without both of them.
Yeah.
I'm not. It's not one. It's one. Not one without the other. It's one with the other.
And here's the thing: he has top 5 upside.
Yeah, we saw it.
We saw it last year. And that's not.
What do you have? Total of 15 total touchdowns, I think.
Yep. And I don't think the touchdowns.
18 touchdowns.
It's not an inefficient season. Again, he ran for 5.5 yards per carry. He was getting work out of the backfield as a receiver. He's getting the right work. He's getting the screen passes and taking it. He's getting the goal line work.
Well, it's a good offense run by Stafford.
Exactly. So I like the running back in this offense, whether it's Kyren or Blake Corum. I would agree with you. If I go and get Kyren, I'm going to get Blake Corum later on.
But if I don't get Kyren, I'm still looking to get Corum. That's how I feel. I'm looking to get a piece of that because even if Corum plays only 4 weeks during 4 missed games.
Well, we just talked about it with Arizona, right? If I get James Conner, I think getting Trey Benson, even though they're going really close to each other, I think getting those guys is a good hedge in your bet.
Because those stars are going to miss games.
Yeah. And so moving on to like the wide receivers here, because this is where
we don't have to spend a lot of time here, in my opinion.
We don't, because these guys are going, two of their wide receivers are going in the top 3 rounds.
Top 4 rounds.
Cooper Kupp just undervalued. He was hurt a huge part of last season.
Well, he had the ankle injury the season before. He then came in and had a hamstring injury to start the season, and then finally get back on the field.
And was dealing with a lingering hamstring injury the entire season.
So I fully expect him, and he was on pace for over 135 targets.
Yeah. And if it wasn't for PUKA there, we would have been like, Cooper Kupp had a great season. But Cooper Kupp comes into this year fully healthy. Mm-hmm. Now, I do think that PUKA deserves to be drafted over Cooper Kupp.
But they shouldn't be drafted so far apart, in my opinion. I think it should be late first round for PUKA, late second round for Cooper Kupp.
And this is where I'm kind of settling on this, is when I'm in a position to draft PUKA, I don't. I've drafted Garrett Wilson. I've drafted A.J. Brown. I've drafted Devontae Adams. I've drafted Marvin Harrison. I've drafted all those guys over PUKA. It's not because I don't like PUKA. But I know I can go and get Kupp 2 rounds later.
See, I'm only in that situation when there's a running back on the board I still like where PUKA is, because I want PUKA. But if there's a running back on the board that I still like, that's right there. Like, for example, if Breece Hall fell and it's between PUKA and him, I'm going Breece, and then I'm going to get Cooper Kupp.
Here's the thing is, like, in PPR, he's a great he's a first-round pick. No doubt in my mind. I want him because he's going to get volume. Like, look at the targets and look at the receptions that he had last season. His touchdowns are not – it's not where other first-round wide receivers are.
Cooper Kupp had more red zone targets than PUKA last year.
Yes.
And Cooper Kupp missed a lot of time.
Yes. And so that's my point is, like, can PUKA get to the point where he's scoring 12 to 15 touchdowns?
I don't know. That's why I have Devontae Adams rated high in my rankings, because there's a world where Devontae Adams is in the double-digit touchdown, no question about it.
Yeah.
PUKA had 6 touchdowns last year.
Yeah.
And a couple of them came in double touchdown games.
Right. And so the other games where he's having 140 yards, you're getting 14 points in a
160 yards, no touchdowns.
Right.
So yeah, no, I see there's a concern there. I think he takes a step forward.
So that's where, like, you get A.J. Brown, who has a 140-yard game, but he can also have 2 touchdowns in those games. Like, his touchdown capital is much higher.
Yeah.
And it might not seem like a lot, but, like, 2 more touchdowns in non-multi-touchdown games is a big difference when you say, all right, well, PUKA had really consistent receiving yards and targets the entire season, but he really only had a handful of top 10 wide receiver finishes in standard because his touchdowns were so low.
Yeah, and I'm pulling it up here. Actually, like, I misspoke. He didn't have a single multi-touchdown game. He actually had his touchdowns fall in back-to-back weeks in October against the Colts and Eagles. And then he went on a 4-game drought. Then he had one every other game pretty much the rest of the season. So, yeah. But, I mean, he hit yards-wise 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 700-yard games, including 164 against New Orleans. He had 163 against the Colts in overtime. He's a beast. 80-yard reception here and there, 70-yard reception here and there. Cooper Kupp, to me, the rapport he has with Stafford, too, and winning the Super Bowl, like, you could see that he's going to still be there. And you just knew he wasn't fully healthy last season.
Yeah, and he didn't look fully healthy last season. And this year coming into the season fully healthy, I think, and don't get me wrong, love PUKA. I think he should be drafted above Cooper Kupp. I just like the value of Cooper Kupp more.
Yeah.
Because I can get other people above PUKA or around PUKA that I want more than I want him.
Well, let's just say that Cooper Kupp still had 2 weeks back-to-back at the beginning of the season of 100-yard games, 118, 148 and touchdown. He had a big 5-game drought, and then he had 3 touchdowns in a row, with 2 games of those being with 100 yards too as well, over 100 yards. And so, like, he can do it still with Puka there, and that's the thing I like about this offense.
Yeah,
is two guys can both finish a game with 100 yards each. Because outside of those two guys, especially with the Higbee injury, they're really. I mean, Tutu Atwell was the third guy there last year. There's going to be a third guy here this year. Was it
DeMarcus
Robinson, who's good. I think he's really good, and it's worth
great best ball value.
Yeah, best ball value, but the hyper targets to these other two receivers are going to be there.
Right.
Just like the hyper rushing to the number one running back is going to be there in this McVay offense.
Right. And I would have liked Higbee as like a late round flyer on a tight end. With his injury, Kobe Parkinson is going to start the season as the tight end 1.
I mean, that's a real fade on tight ends.
I mean, you got to really fade on tight ends for us to talk about.
He's more of a blocking tight end, in my opinion, too, as well.
I mean, like, listen, if Higbee comes back, he's going to start as the waiver wire. If you are in a league where you're able to pick up guys and put them on and stash them, go ahead and do that with him. Otherwise, that's the Rams. We're going to move on to the final team in this division, which is the losers of the Super Bowl, the San Francisco 49ers.